Good evening, everyone. Today I will discuss how three key Victorian Child Safe standards can be effectively implemented in early childhood education and care settings to protect child and foster their well. Child safety is a fundamental responsibility within quality early childhood education care. The Victorian Child Safe Standards Commission for Children and Young People establish a comprehensive regulatory framework designed to ensure that every child is protected from harm, feels secure, and experiences environments where their rights and well-being are prioritized. These standards are legally mandated in Victoria and directly influence how educators plan, engage, and evaluate their daily practices. Today, I will focus on the three key standards. Standard one, which is establish a culturally safe environment that respects and values diverse identity. Standard three, ensure child and student empowerment are and its participation. Standard seven, equip staff and volunteers with knowledge, skills, and awareness to keep children safe. I will discuss the purpose of each standard, analyze relevant policies, share practical strategies for implementation, explore common barriers and solutions, and finally reflect on how these ideas came to life during my placements at Aspire Early Education and Kindergarten Beverage. This reflection will show how these standards can shape my future teaching practice. Transit standards were introduced by CZYP, and it is legally requirement in Australia aiming to protect children from harm, uphold their rights, and promote well-being. This is applicable to all child-related organizations that work with or care for children. Let's discuss the standard one, which is culturally safe environment. Creating a culturally safe space means more than just celebrating diversity. It means actively removing barriers, addressing systemic inequalities, and making every child feel truly seen and respected for who they are. This is especially important for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander children and children from migrant or refugees background. Those cultures have been overlooked or misunderstood in education. Research shows that culturally safe environments help children develop a strong sense of belonging and emotional well-being. When children see their identities reflected and valued in their learning environments, they feel safer and more confident. It is also encourage families to engage more deeply with educators, building trust and collaboration. Now, the next is standard three, which is child empowerment and participation. Children have a right to have their voices heard in decisions that affect them. This is a cornerstone of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, but empowering children in early childhood settings can be challenging. Farrell points out that in Australia, ECEC contexts, fully applying this right is still a work in progress, but essential. When children are encouraged to express their views and participate in decision making, they build agency and resilience. This empowerment fosters a protective environment where children feel confident to speak up if something is wrong. The Early Childhood Education Code of Ethics reinforces this by urging educators to respect children's dignity and see participation not just as a policy but as a core ethical practice. The third standard, which I'm going to discuss, is Standard 7, which is skilled and aware staff. No child safe environment can function well without the staff who are knowledgeable, reflective, and confident in their responsibilities. This means ongoing professional learning, trauma informed approaches, and a shared commitment to child safety. Thomas emphasizes that well being in educational settings depends heavily on educators' ability to recognize and respond to children's diverse needs. Staff competence influences how risks are identified early and how trusting relationships are built with children. Relationships that are essential for the safety, as discussed by Kristen. So, what are the key policies and the frameworks for these standards? The Victorian Child Safe Standards Guide is a thorough and a practice resource that helps services embedded child safety into their policies and daily routines. It provides checklists and frameworks that are accessible for educators. However, the guide assumes centers have sufficient resources and staffing stability, which is often not the case for smaller or regional services. The Creating a Child Safe organization guide by the Commission of Children and Young People stresses leadership and organization culture as a vital for safety. Its proactive approach encourages moving beyond compliance towards genuine cultural change. Yet, educators may sometimes struggle to apply these broad recommendations without tailored examples. Early Childhood Australia Code of Ethics frames child safety as an ethical responsibility rather than just a legal one. This perspective supports deeper engagement with Standard 1 and Standard 3 by highlighting respect, inclusion, and empowerment as foundational value. Research from Thomas, Tisdale, and Warrington and Larkins remind us that the policies must be brought to life in authentic practices. There is a risk that audit-focused compliance lead to box ticking rather than true engagement with children's rights and voices. Together, these frameworks provide a solid foundation, but needs to be implemented with flexibility, cultural responsiveness, and a genuine educator-child relationship to be truly effective. So in this slide, I will discuss the strategy for Standard 1, which is a cultural safety. So, by using the authentic cultural resources like bilingual books, indigenous storytelling, and music that reflect children's diverse background, this shows that their culture is valued and invites families to participate, which is described by Bodkin, Andrews, and Carson. So, with the community partnership, we can collaborate with the local Aboriginal elders and cultural organization to co-design learning events and ensure authenticity. So with the environmental design, this can be displayed by an artwork or a multilingual signage created within community input to make culturally safety visibly every day. So what could be the strategies for Standard 3? For Standard 3, we can use a child voice where we can establish a child councils or idea boards where children have thoughts about their environment and a daily routines, which is described by Farrell. So we can also use as a protective behaviors. We can integrate age-appropriate lessons on personal boundaries and consent. It can be done through storytelling and play. And the third one we can use is the daily choices. So where we offer a children meaningful opportunities to make decision, supporting their agency and confidence. Strategies for Standard 7 are described in three types. So the first is the professional learning or regular training. Schedule regular training on cultural competence, trauma-informed care, and mandatory reporting. So second we can use is reflective practice, where we can hold a team discussion to review incidents and ethical dilemmas, encouraging collective responsibility for safety. Third one we can use is the clear protocols, making reports steps visible within flowchart in a staff areas to ensure quick and consistent responses described by Thomas. These strategies are realistic for many services and embed safety as an everyday care responsibility rather than just a compliance task. So when we are implementing all these strategies, there could be a thousands of barriers. And in this slide, I will discuss the barriers and its appropriate solutions. So let's say we have a barrier one, which is limited resources. So small centers often lack funds for ongoing training or cultural program. So in that scenario, we can utilize the free training from the Commission for Children and Young People, and we can partner with the neighboring service to share cost and apply for community grants. So let's say we have a barrier two, which is workforce turnover and preparedness. So when we have a high staff turnover, interrupt continually, and new staff may lack the policy knowledge. So in that case, we can make child safety standards mandatory at induction and maintain up-to-date digital manuals to ensure consistency. Third barrier could be compliance versus authentic engagement. So some educators focus on documentation just to meet the regulations rather than just fostering the genuine relationship. So in that case, so we should integrate compliance into daily teaching, which document children voices and cultural preparation, making paperwork meaningful rather than just being on paper. So barrier four, where we have a diverse family expectation. So family have different views on safety influenced by culture and experience. So in that scenario, use a just open communication, translated materials, and build trusting partnership with the families described by Farrell in 2019. So in this slide, I will discuss my personal reflection on all these standards. As I'm currently doing my placement, so I have just done week one, but I have seen this all how these standards works in the daily life. So during my placement at Aspire Beverage, I see these standards come practice in daily life. So the center celebrated Nardak Week with activities developed alongside with Aboriginal families. Because I was not present for that occasion, but my mentor briefed me how they have celebrated. So the children were engaged in storytellings and art that honored indigenous culture, which is a perfect example of cultural safety in action. So this corresponds to a standard one. So I also observed how educators empower children by encouraging them to share ideas and make choices throughout the day, which is basically a standard three. So especially during their meal times or playtime, so the protective behavior lessons were a part of routine and helping children understand the boundaries in a playful and a supportive way. So there were different staffs who showed me the strong teamwork and clear safety protocols. During the first day of my placements, my center manager came to me and introduced me all sort of safety standards they are using. They showed me everything, every documents and all those documents that are really helpful for me. Regular reflective discussions help the team to maintain a shared commitment to a child well-being and responsiveness, which is a standard 7. So all this experience showed me that child safety isn't just about a policies or checklist. It's about relationship, respectful, responsiveness, and culturally inclusive relationships that make children feel safe and valued every day. In this slide, I have discussed my plans for upholding child safety and well-being. So, in my future teaching practice, I will be committed to actively listening to children's voices and encouraging their participation because I believe children learn best when they are feel empowered and listened. I will also want to make sure that culturally backgrounds and identities of children are respected and it will be celebrated daily so that every child can feel a strong sense of belonging. I will also continuously pursue professional development in trauma-informed care and child protections. I will make sure that I'm fostering a nourishing, inclusive environment where every child feels valued and safe. I will also advocate for ongoing reflections and ethical practice among educators and these are the references which I have used in my presentation. Thank you very much for listening.